And then Johnny's probably going to do the same thing. I've done that already. Joe's hit record.
Yeah, I've hit record.
And then what we do is say, "How are you doing, Joe?"
And then I start talking.
No, you just say, like, I'm going to just say you're well. How are you doing,
I'm
Joe?
well.
I'm
not going to
fine.
lie, boys.
Okay,
Not
I'll
so
remember
good.
that's what you said. And how are you, Johnny?
I'm doing great, thanks, James.
So this should be everything now. Now we're professional. So let's just have a little talk about your jacket there, Joe.
Yeah, well, I kind of ran out of time for a shower, so I had to do something about it.
What is that? A towel?
No, it's like it's Meg's fur. It's like is in honor of Glyn Johns' ridiculous coat. So.
That's nice.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it's not real. I mean, it's a
I'm
real coat, but it's not.
I'm wearing my
real.
bathrobe, which is more of a kind of Harry Nilsson approach to things.
yeah.
That's
and
Beatlesy. It's still Beatlesy, though.
That is Beatlesy. I'm in my EDM cupboard right now.
That's more like Giles Martin, like modern
yeah,
Beatles.
I'm kind of modern B2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's surround sound Beatles.
Yeah.
Joe, are you talking on a vintage U87 right now?
I mean, I don't know
It
what that
sounds
crazy
really good.
Does it sound good? I've got it going through a 1073.
Does it sound good? Yeah.
I've notched a bit of the top end off. I'm driving my vocal a bit for that kind of like,
Yeah.
Don't let me down. I'm
You could
really
hear
trying
it.
to-
I could hear that
Yeah.
top end, that kind of natural saturation you get with the 1073 preamps. Kind of.
I mean, it's not a real one. It's like an AML, which is a great brand of 1073 copy.
You're not supposed to tell people that. You're just supposed to put a piece of paper over and write Neve there.
Well, I've got a BAE
yeah.
1073 tabletop right now, so we're both using them. But I'm only going through an SM7, so I
mean,
don't
that's
have
the microphone of choice these days.
podcasting.
Well, for
I don't know.
everything.
I might go Neumann, though. I like that you got that kind of revolution. When you first came on and I wasn't looking, I thought it was John Lennon on the show.
Yeah.
I was going to bring I got this a wicked little delay pedal made by Death by Audio. And it's
Shout
got
out
that kind
there.
of
Is that a
tube
shout
thing.
out?
Oh, yeah, I'm shouting that out. Actually, mine's got a bit of a noise floor on it. But yeah, I lent it to my friend Karima. We were going to have a gig or something, and I forgot to get it back. So we can add it in post.
Why do all these companies that make music gear have death in the name? my friend Ian in California is this one Magic Death Eye.
Oh.
And this one's Death by... What is the obsession with death and music?
A morbid curiosity for audio.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite style of joke style. I'd like to be in the boardroom when they make that decision. I'd like to be a fly on the wall there. Kind of
I just thought maybe there was something I didn't know about. Like,
well,
music's
I just seen
over.
My thing stopped recording. I'm gonna start it
Nice.
recording again.
Nice,
it's
dude.
a good start for audio. I'm basically Magic Alex here.
what
Tell me
you
when you're recording again, because I'm going to have to edit it.
Yeah, it's recording again now.
I mean, you
Shit,
can't
that's
possibly be expected to engineer with a coat like that to engineer and produce the session all on
Glyn
your
Johns
own.
does it.
I mean, he does do it.
He's got people hanging out though, probably making sure it's recording while he's in there telling Paul to play a different bass.
He must. I mean, this is my fault for having a cracked version of Logic, though, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day.
Come on, Joe.
That's what
I
I'm
know.
doing too.
That happened to Johnny yesterday, too. His Logic cut out. And
No,
I'm-
you know why? I figured out why. Because I had my headphones into my laptop just as a last minute fix for something.
Yeah.
And I realized when they're plugged into your laptop, if they get jostled or unplugged, it stops recording.
Right.
I troubleshooted that this morning.
I'm just
Figured it out.
thinking that, don't you two both own studios?
I
Yeah.
rent one.
Technically?
It kind of reminds me of those when you go to one of those trade shows and the sound there is always awful, and you go in and it's everyone there has been in pro audio for at least 40 years, and the PAs always sound awful.
Right.
So yeah, maybe it's that. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully Zoom can pick up the nuances of the U87.
I think it will. It's pretty good. It'll send me. Well, it's a complicated setup, and we're pretty convinced on Impossible Way of Life that we're the only people on Earth who figured out how to make it sound like we're all in a room together. But it does rely on Logic working. And if you're running cracked gear, I mean, listen, you said it out loud now. They might shut you down. They probably have some kind of like algorithm, Apple, in kind of cohorts with Zoom that listens for people saying cracked.
They can hear it.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I'm due an upgrade. So if Steve Jobs' ex-wife is listening,
Yeah.
you know.
You could ask, didn't Laura Scanlon work for her for a bit? Can't we just ask her for
We could
shout out to
put
Laura?
the call in. I was thinking actually that either whilst listening to Impossible Way of Life or watching the Get Back film, we could make some sort of drinking game where every time either you or one of the Beatles says, you know, you have to drink.
Well, I've been really excited to start saying, you know,
That would be get ugly
because
real quick.
I'm technically allowed to do it because
You're allowed.
I'm from there. So it's
I'm a
allowed.
plastic northerner, aren't I?
Yeah. So welcome to Impossible Way of Life, a pro audio podcast and also a Friends Reunited podcast. This is a Wednesday episode. So if you like what you hear, subscribe to our Patreon and sign our petition as well to get Peter Jackson to release all the footage from the roof of the Get Back sessions. This is my friend Joe Dudderidge, who a lot of you know Von Cruz, who's been on this podcast, Sam a lot. Well, Sam and Joe used to play in a band together in Manchester, and we kind of all grew up. Grew up's not quite the right word because we were probably 18 when we all started hanging out. But Joe was the only Southerner in Manchester at that point. Which is true. You were the only one. So, and also, interestingly enough, used to look a lot like Dave Grohl. And we used to go place to place in Manchester convincing people he was Dave Grohl. But that doesn't really work as much anymore, especially with the Glyn Johns coat. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, I think I started off when I was a kid, I looked like Robbie Williams. And then I started looking like Dave Grohl. And then I kind of look like a fat Hugh Jackman these days. But I have a young bride, so
Dave
you do
Grohl
have a
looks
young bride, yeah.
Dave Grohl looks weird now. Anyway, though, I think you're better off.
Yeah,
You ever met
he's
Dave
kind
Grohl,
of puffed
Joe?
up these days. Yeah, he's that guy out of Pearl Jam, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
No, I think he was dead and he was in Soundgarden.
Yeah, he's Dave Grohl, isn't he? He's like the nicest guy in rock and roll, except for story he told me or told us all.
He'll probably say eventually that he was in Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. It could go like the way of because he's in the McCartney school of laying claim to things.
Yeah.
Once when he's like 85, Cornell's dead, Cobain's dead, everybody else, he'll be like, actually, I drummed in Pearl Jam on all those records.
Well, if you make a guest appearance, does that mean you're in the band?
Well, Cornell's
according to him,
for a
it
Grammy
does.
this year.
Chris Cornell?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cornell's up for a Grammy. Best rock album somehow.
What?
Well, that's what happens. It's Paint a Vulgar Picture, isn't it, by the Smiths? It's like, at the record company party, On Their Hands a Dead Star, that everyone gets excited because it's like, oh, we're definitely going to win a Grammy this year, boys.
Right.
Honestly, I think it's like, genuinely, it's like the Grammy for Best Rock is like Dave Grohl's like coffee table book somehow, because it's like Indigo chapters. I don't know what we have in England, like Barnes and Noble and stuff,
his
where it's like
coffee
it's
table
not
book?
even. There's so few rock albums now that they have to let books in to be like potentially best rock kind of commodified product. So like Dave Grohl, I think Chris Cornell's in, Springsteen, obviously.
Well, does that mean the podcast could be up for a Grammy?
I think that we're going to be up for best technical recording.
For us, it's more Junos here in Canada.
Yeah, it's like the Brit Awards. But
even
what's
that's
also
shooting pretty high, I think.
And what's really
the
good
music
about,
of Beatles' origin.
Well, it's really good about
Mobos.
that is that I've been nominated for Junos in Canada, and I tell my mum and dad, and they're like, "That's amazing," because they think it's like a Brit Award, but it's definitely not as good as a Brit Award. So, because Brit
You win
Awards
a
are quite
Juno
prestigious.
if you win.
Yeah.
Get a 106.
I'm going for producer.
There
of the
are
year next
there
year.
are Vancouver podcast awards though, Jim. What
That's
happened
so
with that,
cool.
man?
Do you want to
Well,
know
I mean-
who's? Let me tell you who's in for best rock performance.
Oh, I thought you were going to say best rock podcast.
This is the
Bing.
Grammys. Foo Fighters, Making a Fire. Deftones, Ohms. Chris Cornell, Nothing Compares to You. Presumably that was
Ancient
posthumously.
artifacts of rockers,
And
these people.
AC/DC, Shot in the Dark.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The Grammys relevant.
Wow.
Why is McCartney not in there? He put a record out.
That shows the state of rock these days. I'll tell you that.
But he put a record out. How is he not in there? Where's McCartney? Or maybe it's next year. He
That's
has
not
to wait
rock,
till-
man. He's more singer-songwriter.
Clown.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not... I mean, those groups you mentioned, those guys know how they rock hard, according to the Grammys, you know?
I'm looking here to see. Yeah, Tony Bennett's got a few nods this year.
Not in the rock category.
Nah.
He gets nominated every time he does something, too. He's just beloved.
Well, I'm looking here at the best metal performance, and there's a Dream Theater up. Oh, here we go. Best rock song, "Find My Way" by Paul McCartney. He's got one.
He's in there.
Best rock song. Do you want to know who's in this? We've got a Kings of Leon song. We've got a Van Halen song. Paul McCartney, Foo Fighters, and Weezer.
Who's
Is
the
it
current singer?
2001?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
no,
mean...
here you go, actually. Paul McCartney nominated for Best Rock Album.
Oh, it is.
He's up against Foo Fighters, actually, and up against Chris Cornell.
This is hilarious.
Chris Cornell's album's called No One Sings Like You Anymore, Volume 1.
Because you're dead.
Because you're dead. That's what it's... Yeah, I mean, that's
In
what they're
brackets.
implying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a really fun night.
Cutthroat
Grammys.
evening. Yeah.
Yeah. That might be worth us watching, though, just to see the relationship between Grohl
Yeah,
and McCartney.
I think
And
so.
if that is the moment Grohl ascends to rock and roll heaven.
Maybe they'll probably perform together.
Yeah, you'd think so.
They will. When is the Grammys?
It's early in the year, isn't it, normally? Or is that the Oscars?
I haven't watched that, and I remember it was like the day after Kobe died.
Yes. When did
Which-
Kobe die, then?
Yeah, because
Sorry, when was Kobe killed?
I think it was like February or March.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's when it is. Need Luke on for that more, because he's LA.
Yeah.
He's more into it.
I was down there when Kobe died, man. And then the Grammys were at the Staples Center.
Yeah.
It was a heavy scene. Yeah. The whole thing was just a tribute to Kobe. They changed
Talking
the whole...
about Kobe, you want to explain to me, Johnny, a little bit about that Nielsen throwing a Curry zone three-pointer from the
That's
halfway
amazing.
line video?
That's-
Explain what's going on there.
That's such a good story. It's so
I'm sure
cool.
Joe would like the story.
It's very Nilsson and very Beatlesy too, because he bet RCA that he could make a video for his new song for under $5,000, and so they were like, "Okay, we'll give you $5,000 and you can make a video." So all he did was rent the Staples Center for like an hour, the whole thing, and then he got a film crew in there. And he got Ringo to come and just sit in the empty stands. And then he was like, all I'm going to do is just go and run up and shoot a jump shot from center court and sink it. And then we'll pan up to the scoreboard and it'll say Nilsson 1, RCA 0. And that'll be the whole video. And so he went and grabbed the ball. He's like, okay, we good to go? Let's do this. And he went and grabbed the ball. First shot from center court, drilled it. Nothing but net, and they weren't rolling.
No.
And he was like, you gotta be kidding me. So the cameras weren't filming. So then it took him 50 more tries to get it again.
That's still pretty good, though.
And then he got it again, and then they just panned to Ringo in the crowd, slow clapping, and that's the video. It's so funny.
That's genius.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you want to talk Beatles?
Beatles.
Yeah.
Let's talk Beatles, yeah.
Joe, you were in the States last week
Yeah.
playing a show with a kind of... I was trying to explain to Johnny, Lizzie's vibe, kind of a Laurel Canyon vibe, if I'm
I
not
mean, she
wrong.
lived in Cali for I mean,
She
we
lived in Ojai, didn't she? I
yeah,
think?
Ojai. We actually played a Joni Mitchell, the classic, River Christmas song, which is so fucking sad every time.
Yeah, man, it's super
And
sad.
She nailed it.
Canada,
but,
dude.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're in Minneapolis, so it's like halfway there, really. We weren't far from Canada, but
That's pretty much
It's pretty
Canada.
much Canada, yeah. Anywhere in the Midwest, really.
yeah, it was really nice. It was all quite short notice, but flew out there, which I had to take a million tests. But Minneapolis is great, and I had a real
Good town, good town.
Did you have to
great
play
experience.
Crossroads when you're talking about tests? Were they musical tests? Like you have to play Crossroads by
I mean,
Eric
it was a
Johnson
test
or-
because I had to learn
or
so many
COVID.
Christmas songs in such a short space of time. But
Was it a Christmas tour?
it was
Like, it was-
just a one-off show that she was thrown in at the last minute, and so I flew out and we had one day's rehearsal, and then.
Can you
and
talk to us a little bit about, because, the holidays are coming up here, and I'm
Turkey's
sure our
getting
fans would
fat.
love to know what's on the playlist for a Christmas show like that. What did you have to learn?
I did an arrangement of there was like we did have yourself a Merry Christmas, we did River, we got Slade. Slade wasn't a big hit in the US, I don't think, but
Slade?
The band
Merry
Slade,
Christmas
yeah.
everyone, yeah.
Okay. I thought that it was a song called
A song called
Slade,
Slade. I mean,
like
that
a
would be quite
Santa's
good.
sleigh.
EIGH, yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
Slade.
I mean, someone should do that, but
Yeah, I'm going to do it right away. Johnny's
What,
kind
we-
of a Christmassy guy, so.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a thing about these Christmas shows is they come. I mean, I've been doing like the odd one for the last maybe 5 years. I was always quite cynical about them, but then
But you, I know in your old age, you take any gig you can, really, don't you?
basically, yeah. But also it's quite nice because, but I guess by the time I'm 70, I'm gonna know about 100 Christmas songs, and so when everyone's like sat around,
Right.
in the apocalyptic future when we're just sat around the barrel,
Just
when
the
everything's burnt
family,
down.
yeah.
I've been watching
exactly.
Time Team a lot recently, so that makes sense
Yeah.
to me visually.
Are you a guitarist, Joe?
No, I'm a piano player. Well,
piano.
both.
Oh, good.
Yeah, piano first, and then guitar.
But that's more Christmassy to gather around the piano and do
Oh,
them
yeah,
all when
yeah.
you're 70. Yeah.
Yeah,
Though it's be a bit harder to get a piano out around the flaming barrel.
Yeah, outside the
Well, a lot
inside
of
the
pianos
It
get-
Saxon
wouldn't
mud hut.
stay in tune. It wouldn't. You'd have a lot of trouble finding a tuned piano in the
tuning's not a
post-apocalypse.
big deal anymore. We learned that from the Beatles Get Back documentary. Tuning
A
doesn't seem
piano
to
out of
matter.
tune, though, I feel like
think it matters
is
too much
really
anymore.
noticeable.
That's a bit of a Tom Waits
for
energy.
Christmas. Oh yeah, I guess kind of a saloon
We won't
piano.
have Christmas anymore because we'll be pagan.
Right.
well.
That,
I
that
reckon
would be the cruel irony of you learning 70 million Christmas songs. By the time you can play them all, we will be pagan again.
that's true.
And he won't be able to find a piano anywhere
You'll
because
just
it'll
have to
all
play-
been burned for firewood.
You can just
Yeah.
replace the Jesus word with something. I mean, the top line's the main thing, isn't the top
Right.
line and the harmony, and then we can come up with more kind of pagan lyrics.
Yeah,
To kind
talk
of
about the
suit-
maypole and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
talking of tuning though, like I think Billy Preston may have been the only one in tune on those sessions because those roads get pretty kind of. I mean, they get tuned, and everyone else is like,
Yeah.
just tune to Ringo's Tom or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's what Luke, our friend who we spoke to yesterday, because we're really trying to like get these all in before Christmas. He kind of thought he's a big tuning guy. Like he really likes tuning. He kind of like for him like blues gets good with the invention of the Boss tuner.
Oh,
That's
right.
like when
Late
it
80s.
starts.
Late
More
80s, kind of the
kinda-
best era
but
for
he's
tuning.
pretty sure the tuning and with the Beatles started tuning to the Rhodes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I couldn't disagree with your friend more. No offense to him, but like the oscillation in blues between the instruments is what makes it good. And actually, when you clean it up too much, is when it starts to sound nasty.
Well, you clearly are not
Well, he's
a
more of an on the
Robert
porch
Cray
guy.
fan.
No, Joe's more down home on the porch,
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
mama's grits kind of guy.
Yeah, I
Right.
sing sharp. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just trying to like reach above the loud band.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah, you've always struck me as that kind of guy for sure.
I mean, I'm looking at you in that fur coat and all your lush plants surrounding you in that Neumann microphone, and I just think blues.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I think this
do you
guy
think about
knows
that
blues.
Well, that whirly
What do you think about this guy?
Yeah, that's
Little-
bluesy.
There's the whirly there. That's bluesy.
Yeah.
In fact, if anyone knows how to tune, I really need to learn, because if I take that thing on the road, it's going to be a mess.
You
First
could just
night.
get a Nord and cover it with the whirly thing,
Yeah,
like
that's
Nord
the
shame. They
move.
call it Nord shame. I've heard about this.
Really?
Or
Yeah,
Nord
but
washing.
then it's called Nord shame, where you get like a whirly cover. And I saw tons of people when I was in
Oh, yeah,
LA,
it's a
and
huge
everyone.
move.
Yeah, and then, but
It's
now
not
there's
okay.
a shame. Now there's a new thing that people are ashamed of the Nord shame. So they're just going back to the red Nord because they're.
That's kind of like the Great Blues Reset. That's what we
Yeah,
talked about
exactly.
a lot. It's like when you kind of like, at one point, you're kind of like, you've got, first it's the tuner, and then you get past the tuner and you sort of start like, I don't know, kind of getting really complicated amps made, inbuilt effects. You know, you want to sound like Robert Johnson. You want that kind of out-of-tune sound. You switch like a feature on the amp and it'll do it for you. And then, you know, we get that far in and eventually you got Jack White making like a guitar out of a tree stump. And then we're
Well,
back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be at the bottom of that tree watching him chop that off and then listen to him jam it than be like sweating over a Boss tuner and in some club in Chicago trying desperately to get in tune.
Yeah, exactly.
Mick Jagger's in the audience in a
But
red
you'd be-
shell suit.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but exactly. You see, you'd be part of the Great Reset then, and
So
then
what you're saying is you're ready to reset.
you wouldn't be at any of the Black Keys shows right before. You'd be the one in the crowd, kind of protesting. This is not blues with a sign.
Yeah.
This is not blues, and then you'd kind of start your own movement, and then
I think that show where the Stones are in the basement, I think they're doing like a session with Buddy Guy. And Buddy's like, you know, he's still got it. And the Stones are like in shell suits. And I feel like at that point, that's when the blues died.
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Buddy
I mean,
Guy's one of the bluesiest motherfuckers around, dude.
It's not,
He's quite
Buddy
bluesy.
Guy. It's the Stones wearing these fucking shell suits.
Yeah.
She's the boss, kind of.
Yeah. You know.
Well, I mean, I've been kind of expounding a theory of yours, Joe, over the last couple of weeks. So credit where credit's due. I want to give it back to you. Like that, you're pretty convinced, because I know you've watched the Beatles Get Back. You watched it once all the way through, and then you got on a plane from Houston back home and watched the whole thing again, which I told Johnny about, and he was like, I'd give anything to get on a 9-hour flight right now so I could just be alone.
Just so I could, for the pure immersion of being trapped with it again for 9 hours. But like, not even like, oh, I can get up and do
trapped.
something else. Like, I have to watch
trapped
it again
with the Beatles. But you kind of were saying, Joe, that like your kind of big kind of realization is that the Beatles are the only band that didn't try to make things good ever.
Yeah, I listened to Let It Be Naked as well, which is obviously kind of what they intended. What the initial thing maybe sounded like, but I just think they had a way of like reaching a point and then sort of abandoning it. And I like to approach recording like that. But the thing that I don't do is just believe in what I'm doing enough to like put the vocal down live. And maybe it just wasn't a choice back then, because obviously we know they did like Please Please Me and stuff like that, you know, the first album in a day. So they were used to it. But to just commit and like sing the song, if you don't know the words, then don't record it, kind of thing. But they were just doing it. There's plosives all over the recordings, and they just kind of don't give a shit. And
No
they're
pop
confident.
shields, are there?
That was the philosophy for Let It Be, though, right? Like, I don't think they did that on the White Album. Like,
that's
if
fair enough,
you see
yeah.
photos of them, there are pop shields. They have those cool little silver ones, like that would go around your mic, like on the tip. And like,
Just the
generally, you see, and on Abbey Road too, all the footage or photos of them singing are like just them singing on a mic. And so I think although you're right, it's amazing they did that. I think it was like a big decision that we're gonna sing it all live and leave the pops in and make it sound fucked up for this. You know what I mean?
Maybe because it sounds so good, maybe we all need to have a bit of that. I know, like
Totally.
yeah.
But, you
Because
know, like, I've been thinking about what you said, and, like, so you make that decision, and, like, the Beatles are so, like, ubiquitously number one in the world that they do that, and it's like, then every band after the Beatles tries to, like, copy and this is on the engineering and production side, too, like, copy it, so they're like, you know, if you read that book, Recording the Beatles, they were just using U87s because they were like the mics that got shipped in. It wasn't like there was like a massive plethora of choices, microphone-wise. Yeah. So like, and the same with the console. It's not like they're like, let's ship in an SSL or something, like try a different console out, you know? So they're kind of like, they're just doing it with really good shit that's on hand. And then the next bands in the 70s start to sort of do music in reference to the Beatles setup. And that just goes on in this feedback loop to now where we're just like doing music in relation to like the Chemical Brothers, also Dr. Dre, also ELO, and also the Beatles, and then like getting lost in all of this technology where they kind of, I think even for things like the White Album and stuff, were pretty much just chill about like, this is where we're at. So everyone's basically doomed because they were like the first people on the moon, you know?
But that's the thing about watching and I've actually got it in the background, which is quite
just to hype you up.
Just to hype me up. What's so amazing about watching what they're doing is because it's all about the process, and where they struggle is where they're not all in the room. And then, you know, when John starts cracking the jokes and George comes back from his little hissy fit, which is kind of justified in my opinion.
Yeah, but all you need to do is go up north to get your fucking senses back.
To realize you gotta come south again.
I'm going back down there. It's way better.
But like the process is everything. And, you know, when everyone's in there and everyone's in the room and they're ready and then the mics are on, then it's all about just, you know, capturing that moment. But obviously a lot of these things apply to maybe to rock and roll more than they do to, say, dance music. But I suppose, you know, what these guys really nailed was just that idea of everyone being there and, you know, focusing on the moment and not stopping until you kind of get there, not letting go. Like what was that quote you're saying about that George was quoting about just get it done, you know?
Oh, it was like
finish the song.
Yeah. Well, John had told him that or something. Like if you have a good one, finish it that night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just feel so inspired by the film, you know, and also it makes me miss all the bands I've been in, you know. Just
totally.
It just brings me back.
I feel that way.
We just played some. Sorry, Johnny, you go.
The one thing I'd say about what you were saying earlier is, though, here's the funny part is that although that's totally true about that we could all use a bit more of that like live off the floor energy in what we do.
We're not very good.
That's what I'm saying is that like I experienced this through an artist called Neil Young who also only did that like live with Chris. And you know, James and I have talked about this, that when you're like 21 and you're like, fuck yeah, all I'm going to do is just like record it live and it's going to be loose and it's going to sound awesome. But then you quickly realize when you listen back that it doesn't sound good. And so I think although elements of that are important to incorporate, it's pretty fucking hard to do it unless you're the Beatles or Crazy Horse or a band that's tight as hell and comfy playing with each other.
I still think it's confidence too, and I think that we're like in a you can like never go back. Like time's really painful, so we're like fucked because we grew up in our time. Like we grew up after it all. There's no way to go back. You can't make a record.
Also studio time though, right?
Well,
like,
sure. I mean, you could find a way. There's money.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't go back because if you try to, at some point, even if you really try, someone's gonna be like, just edit that thing there. You can't do it. It's impossible.
Right.
Oh,
that's true.
We'll just quickly do it. Like it doesn't matter. It's not like breaking.
Good point. The fact that we know, know that we can edit it
too much
is why we don't try.
Yeah.
Can you splice a tape? Can you splice a tape, boys?
Have you ever spliced a tape? No.
Exactly.
I've heard people say they can, but I've never seen it done.
They used to teach it at my uni because they didn't have any decent stuff at the time. Yeah. So they were still teaching tape splicing when I got
pretty
there.
Pagan, your university.
It was in a Brill cream factory.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's also drummers though a lot too, isn't it? Because like no offense,
drummers. Yeah.
Well, it's like because the drums have to be, the vocals can be a little loose and ragged, or the guitar, and it's fun and it sounds cool. But if the drums mess up, then it doesn't really.
Oh
sound...
yeah, but you can't work with bad drummers. You know what are you playing at?
No.
I heard you're a fan of Logic Drummer.
No, that's
Basin.
Brandon
No, that's
mostly.
Brandon.
Oh.
I've never used that.
Brandon really likes. He likes. I can't. I'll ask Brandon quickly. What's the guy's name again? I'll text him. He'll text me.
Yeah,
I
I
have
like this.
I have a cracked version of Logic too, and all I know how to do is press record. And
I'm gonna
Yeah,
ask
I mean,
Brandon.
mine really isn't recording well tonight. I hope the Zoom thing comes up well because mine's keeps crashing, but
Fucking
it'll be
hell.
fine.
Nice one, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I
all
mean,
right,
that's
I'm
what you get when you get a
Joe,
cracked copy.
I'd just like to say it's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
And
Well, it's kinda
I would like to
Christmassy.
hear. I heard a really you. I heard something that your take on the Beatles and all of this is fascinating and inspiring. But I heard something else that you did that inspired me even more, which was that you figured out a airport drinking hack, life
yeah.
hack recently.
Well, if you need like a decent layover, but I basically spent $60 on getting a pass for the United Lounge, and then I spent the next 4 hours just drinking straight gin, like martinis, then gin and tonics. Which, if I'd drunk in the Houston lounges, would have come to about at least $250 worth of booze.
Fantastic move.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And then you got on the plane and watched 9 hours of
You
Beatles.
Yeah.
fell asleep, actually, didn't you? But you were kind of in a fugue
I turned
state,
it
so
into a
you could
podcast.
hear it.
Yeah, it turned into a podcast. So it sort of came in, went into my soul as I was sleeping. So it was quite calming, actually, just listening to them talk. And because it's all, you go from one thing to another. It's like those nonsense apps that you put on where people just talk nonsense and it helps you fall asleep.
I've never heard of those apps. We don't have them over here, I don't think.
Oh, yeah, Meg loves them. You basically, it freaked me out because I came in one night to the bedroom because often I go to bed later, and she
Rock and roll.
just had this guy like had this,
Right on, dude.
yeah, she just had this guy like talking nonsense. I was like, what the fuck is she listening to? And it was just some app where some guy like basically riffs up. I mean, you talk about fuging. This guy was basically fuging nonsense, and I thought I was going mad because I'd had a few drinks. But yeah, there's like people who just talk nonsense for.
I
a
think you're
podcast.
just describing our podcast, like pretty much.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't listen to you guys at night because it's too. I just laugh too much.
Too
which
keyed
is
up.
nice.
It's a bit
Yeah,
keyed
For
up.
I mean,
sleep.
I
Yeah.
totally agree about Macca being keyed up in those first few sessions.
Yeah.
You can tell he's just like, or maybe that's just his vibe that he's got so much like so much ramped up energy inside him because he's frustrated and I think the one take I had was that Macca's like very frustrated behind the bass, and because he can play everything, because he has ideas for every part, he really gets frustrated, and that's why he's kind of playing it like a guitar. I mean, you guys have probably said that already, but then like when he gets on the piano and no one's filling in that bass, it's almost that thing where the classic Beatles sound needs Macca on bass for it to sound like the Beatles.
Yeah.
And when he jumps off, it kind of, you can tell everyone else is kind of out of their comfort zones.
I think
interesting.
I got to say quickly as well, like, Johnny, just to kind of reinforce this, Joe is such a McCartney, by
Yeah.
the way.
He's
In
a
terms-
Paul?
Oh, big
yeah.
time. So you
So am I.
you two are two of the biggest Pauls I know.
Yeah.
So you guys
it
can
made me
kind of
hate
riff on
myself,
this.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, it made me hate myself and also regret just relive the pain of having to be that way in
Yeah.
the past in groups I've been in and stuff like that, but also weirdly it was self-affirming too, because you're like, well, if
Agreed.
nobody's gonna do it, then
That's
Paul
how I
does.
feel.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
I specifically Steve Ballinger, who's a great songwriter in the traveling band. He was a founding member, but I remember being like Paul was to him, and he was being George, and he would sort of, and he
is a
eventually left the
George.
band, and it
He's a George,
breaks my heart, like thinking
Yeah.
about that dynamic. But at the end of the day, someone had to there had to be someone driving the band, and
And
but
he
I also
literally
look
can't
back-
drive either.
yeah. But it's heartbreaking, but I miss all my boys.
I guess Sam, you played in a band with Sam. He'd be John, wouldn't he? He's a John.
Yeah.
Big
he's a
time.
John.
Major John energy.
I also don't think maybe John was as smacked up as you thought you have
First,
suggested.
I think first act, he seems
I
like.
think he's biting his tongue. I think.
But,
I don't know.
but let me tell you one thing. There's a shot where he and Yoko come in with Spanish Tony, dude.
Have you
And
got
do
Spanish
you know who
Tony's number?
Spanish Tony,
Sure you
Tony
do.
Sanchez, I have his book, was Keith Richards' smack dealer.
Wow. Is this the guy that used to go around with Keith to make sure he didn't do too many lines? It was like, Keith, you've had enough. It's been 4 days. Was that someone else?
I think he was just like a.
I've been doing
I think
that
that was
for
someone else.
years.
He was like just a big shot dealer. And there's one shot. It's 5 seconds long where John and Yoko walk in with Tony Sanchez, and I'm like, to me, that kind of like laid it all out pretty clear.
Yeah, I thought it was quite sweet how, I mean, you see John's evolution through the film from being completely, he's reserved, he's taking a step back and, maybe that is like a smack hangover. But at the same time, I feel like he's obviously kind of like emotionally sad about what's happened between him and Paul. And as the thing goes on, you can see their connection coming together. And then John kind of uses his wit and his humor and everything to kind of pull everyone in, and he's like this magnet of joy. When he wants to turn it on, it's beautiful.
That's really well put. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that it was always kind of John's band to lead and John had to be enthusiastic for everybody to get enthusiastic because he's John Lennon. And
also,
I think that
I've worked with artists before, I think this is the more defining characteristic of Paul's in the studio. Is this is what Paul does in the sort of situations you're talking about and the difference between him and John is like everyone in the band knows Paul's the best in the band. Like they're all fine with it. Like in terms of like he's the protagonist to some extent in terms of the music, and he's bringing more songs to the table and everything. But he's also a complete control freak, and that's not even a problem. The problem is he recognizes he's a controls freak at times, tries not to be for about 2 minutes, and then just starts doing it again. Like he cannot let it lie. Like he will not let it lie. He can't do it. So that must be like, infuriating because we don't know other than the kind of weird hidden under a flower pot secret conversation, which is as good as an apology, I suppose. I've been in rooms with people like that where they say like, sorry, no, I know I've got to give you space to figure out what you're doing. And then like, they just can't, they only can do it for about 2 minutes. And then they start critiquing again. And you can see that it's like at some point, and I think to echo your point, Joe, at some point, like for someone like John, it must be so infuriating because there's no words anymore. You may as well just stay quiet and because you've probably been through it a million times. You respect the guy, but it's on him to, change his behavior, and he's clearly not capable of it.
But I think that Paul did show a little bit of change when it got better. I was proud of him when they start working a little better together at Apple, and he kind of quiets down. And then John and George are working out Dig a Pony a bit, and Ringo. And then because Paul's been a bit dormant, I love that part that John's like, what do you think it should be? Like, the drums on this part. And then he's like, well, since you're asking, and he comes up with that great idea of Ringo hitting the cymbal with the kick, which is awesome.
But you shouldn't give him a cookie for that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just think
that's just collaboration.
He probably had that thought 2 hours before as well.
That's what I'm saying. Restraint. Yeah. He showed a little restraint.
Yeah, but he also had a lot of bad ideas too.
Yeah, I think he learned his lesson a little bit after Twickenham. When George came back, he's like, I better be a little less domineering because it scared the guy off pretty much. So
Aidan is Brandon's favorite Logic drummer.
Aidan, he's decent. I like Mason. But my thing is that the reason why I brought it up.
You think it's Nick Mason? You think he's named after him?
I mean, I think his whole thing is like, he's just a loose country thing. But Ringo is basically like a Logic drummer where if there's music going on, he'll start doing his Ringo thing. But as soon as the music stops, he just stops. And makes him the best guy to ever jam with, because the worst drummers are the ones who are constantly like fiddling around.
You mean every drummer?
Yeah, every drummer. I mean, but then
maybe that's the key to the Beatles fully. Like, it's not about them not trying or anything. It's just that they had an oral break in between ideas because the drummer didn't start like smacking shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably why like bands like the Beach Boys were so good too, because they just hire session drummers. So they were paid to not play in between while they were working out
Can
ideas.
I pay you to not play anything?
Yeah.
I bet, and I bet there's no way Neil Young was putting up with a drummer playing shit in between anything.
He'd just cuss him out, probably. He'd just look at him with fiery red eyes and tell him to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do a Neil Young like drum machine, which is just a tom, and that's it. So that's all you're allowed.
That's all you get.
That's all you get.
You're always playing at the Last Waltz kind of reunions, Joe, aren't you? You're kinda into
I'm
that.
just like a pastiche guy.
Who do you like be? Who are you in the Last Waltz tribute usually?
I
Dr.
would
John?
say, well,
I could see you right now as a Dr. John.
as a
for
Dr.
sure.
John. I guess I'm a Dr.
Mac
John, but I'm not
Rebennack.
like, I've not got a decent, probably.
Van Morrison.
Who am I? I'm probably.
You could
I can't
probably do
be
Richard.
anyone from the band, though, can I?
No,
You
why
can't
not?
be in the. Oh, yeah, I'd
Manuel.
probably be. I'd be Emmanuel, I think. I mean, I'm not as sad as him.
Hang yourself in a goddamn closet.
I mean, he's our avatar, isn't he? For
Yeah,
this?
he's our avatar, yeah.
Yeah, what
I've
a
been
guy.
talking about doing a Last Waltz tribute here for like 15 years on American
Fly me
Thanksgiving.
out. Fly me out.
We should do it.
Probably.
Yeah, get me on the Phil
patrons will
Collins
probably
plane.
do it.
We'll do like one in the UK.
Oh,
We'll
one
get
of
the
those
jet.
ones. Yeah.
Well, from San Fran, and then we'll like, unless you want to do it in BC, but like, we could.
We'd better to do it at Winterland in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
why
sure
not?
that is every day. I'm sure there's a fucking Last Waltz reunion.
It's like that bowling alley where they filmed The Big Lebowski, where they just
Exactly.
have a Big
All day,
Lebowski
they just-
party every night.
day.
Do you think they get any? I reckon they'll get an email every day with someone suggesting.
It's been my dream, my life dream, and like Google execs.
Or more like they think it's such a great idea. They're just like, I've been talking with some of my musician friends. We came up with an amazing idea. What about a Last Waltz tribute
no one's
concert
ever done it.
at Winterland, but like modern indie rockers doing the classic?
You know what's interesting? Like that's overdue a reboot. Like there's a lot of money to be made there. Lots of those artists are still alive. Scorsese's still alive. They could do it.
Yeah.
They could do
did
a
it.
reboot.
They did it last year.
Oh no, really?
Because I have a friend who works with this guy Nathaniel Rateliff and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Night
Yeah,
Sweats.
yeah.
and-
Oh, they did.
And-
good.
Yeah.
No, they did a massive one like in Nashville, Last Waltz tribute, and with Robbie Robertson.
Oh wow.
And Robbie, I think it was in
Robbie's
Nashville.
new teeth.
Robbie like did the whole, like he organized the whole thing and just got a bunch of like new
Did he play?
kind of. Yeah, he played. Yeah,
You play Crazy River.
Did he overdub it for the recording though?
Exactly.
I just
half the
I gotta
budget
get
on-
some sherry and plug my phone in because I've got a feeling I need a backup for this.
You don't need a backup. The audios work pretty well.
Okay.
I think I can just use the Zoom audio for your voice.
All right,
it
I'll
might
be
not-
like 10 seconds.
It might not have the full kind of U87 kind of like feel, but it's going to be pretty good.
yeah.
Get some sherry. I guess it is Christmas.
Does Joe live in London?
Joe lives in London. Yeah, he lives in London Fields. It's a really nice place. I've never actually been round to it because he didn't live in London when I was last over there. Because, well, maybe he did. I don't know. But he lives there now. But he has a studio up in Manchester, you see.
Cool.
That a mutual friend, Adam, who's a very, very good engineer and presumably at this point, I mean, a really good producer too. I don't know, but just talking about Adam runs your studio. You know?
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah, if anyone's in the UK listening, come to Pinhole Sound Studio. We like to do things, the old school way.
Yeah, we could do a record there, Johnny.
Or a
We should.
podcast.
Yeah, we could just do a
It's actually the
podcast.
worst place for a podcast because it's like,
It's all one room, isn't it?
yeah, and there's like you can hear shit coming into the room sometimes. It's very rustic. We haven't got the we've not spent thousands of pounds on the walls. We've spent that on a EMT reverb instead. Come make a record. That's great. Adam is,
Yeah, Johnny, let's go make a record.
hours.
Let's do some
Sure.
Johnny
Do it.
Payne stuff, and you'll use a real EMT 140. Manchester.
I was just reading about
the
those.
issue is if you do make a record in Manchester, it might end up sounding like Joy Division. It's just what happens. You can't help it. Or Oasis, which is pretty mint, but they didn't really record there.
Mm.
You know,
Where did they record?
I don't know, like in Wales
Rockfield,
or something.
which is near where my
Mike's
U87
from.
comes from, Mono Valley, which is the sister or the little brother of Rockfield, where like
They did
Yellow
What's the
was
story,
written.
Morning Glory.
Yeah, look up Rockfield.
Yellow by Coldplay.
Yeah, they looked up at the stars and they were shining down.
Oh, that's where that lyric came
from he wrote it at Rockfield apparently. I always thought it was about the Southampton away kit from the FA Cup final, but apparently not.
It makes sense that it would be though. You know, if you were all United, the Sharp View Cam United away kit.
I kind of like that one.
Yeah, it was yellow, but it was a bit green in it, or just Norwich or Watford.
Yeah.
I mean, Lecce. There's lots of teams.
Yeah,
Colombia.
it was all yellow.
Yeah. I don't know if any of them were all yellow. Piss is yellow.
This is yellow. Amber. I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about what's going to happen after the film, and whether you think there's going to be some fan fiction vibes, or I had an idea about maybe getting Peter Jackson to commission Dan Brown to do like a mystery, a Libya. What would have happened if Hogg had gotten to Libya? And then some sort of like
alternate versions of history.
Yeah, like a fan fiction Dan Brown thing.
Christopher Nolan, maybe as
but
well.
Someone's got to die.
Playing with time.
Well, we're hoping
John
first
dies.
and foremost that he finishes
Spoiler
what he
alert.
started and releases the rooftop concert footage.
Yeah, how's the petition going?
We've got about 28 signatures.
28 signatures, trying to get to 100 by Christmas.
I guess like people don't really care about anything.
No.
It seems to me astonishing.
Have you posted it on the Beatles, on the Facebook, the official base?
Reddit. We
Facebook?
should do that. Okay.
Yeah,
need to hit
there
the
you
forums,
go, James.
dude.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, good idea. But beyond that, what I noticed, Joe, was that when I did the petition, that Peter Jackson, he was, you could select him as a person that you're directing the petition at, meaning he has other petitions out against him already.
Yeah, kind of like Fat was.
So the way I see it is that people are already quite they're pushing him to do something, and all I can think of is that they're wanting him to continue the Lord of the Rings story.
Yeah,
like probably just
Silmarillion.
Write a new trilogy. We don't care if it's not a real book. Just keep it going.
You know
Put
that
all
Tolkien. I've been watching Time Team recently, and we don't know anything about the Dark Ages in England, so they have to just. It's basically like when we talk about the Dark Ages, like Saxon times, which is what we'll go back to in about 70 years. We know so little about what was going on, like because everything was made of wood. You can't find anything. Like it's all gone.
Mulch.
So it's all mulch, isn't it? So basically, Tolkien made it all up, made up a land that was like meant to feel like Saxon in its kind of vibes, and that's just what history's now just decided it looked like. Like they have no idea what it really looked like, so they just like go with what Tolkien did. And it literally said this on Time Team the other day. Just like,
do you think this will be when they find like the studios, and all the wood from the guitars is turned into mulch, and they're going to be left with just the strings,
mulch and the strings, and that'll be pottery.
It's funny you talk about fan fiction stuff because maybe it is going to go the way of like Star Wars, where like this whole Lord of the Rings Beatles thing, that now that there's no actual footage left or anything, they'll just do an animated Beatles kind of, how Star Wars has all these offshoot things, and it'll be like them doing the White Album,
right?
And they'll use and maybe
I
that's
watched
where
Serengeti last night, which is a BBC sort of Planet Earth adjacent thing, and I was really excited about it because it was going to be like all these animals like in the Serengeti, but then it's been narrated as if they have human characteristics, so it's like kind of like a real life Lion King. And it was really hard to watch because I'm pretty sure that they don't have human voices or feelings You
Isn't
know?
that The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, though? Haven't they
No.
already kind of...
Well, that's
No,
coming
see,
up
that's
too.
coming up, and there's definitely a Beatles potential crossover there, especially.
There, you could
and
mix
also,
that with Beatles.
it's war and evacuees and stuff. It's Peter Jackson loves all that stuff. It's
Aren't there 4 children who go through the wardrobe? Just like
I think
Beatles.
there's 4
So
grandparents.
Who's
to
the lion then?
Charlie.
Is that Glyn's
The
goat?
lion?
No.
Well, lion's Jesus, so it's John, isn't it?
Right.
no, I think the 4 of them
Yeah,
are
but John's
are
Aslan.
the kids are the Beatles, and they go through the wardrobe, and then just their journeys through Narnia are them throughout their
Making
career
records.
making their albums.
Yeah,
and
but
stuff.
John dies, so Aslan dies, and George is a fawn. He's that weird little fawn character.
Right, that's the one thing we can agree on
Yeah.
there for sure.
And
yeah.
maybe, maybe Paul. I mean, Paul.
Prince Caspian is Paul.
Yeah, I
you
only
know?
read the Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe one, and then the other ones I was excited to, and I realized he was really Christian, and it got really confusing for me as a kid because I thought it was just a thinking man's Dungeons and Dragons.
I got a note here that says Mal. I was obviously wasted on the plane. Like Mal Evans, Lenny of Mice and Men vibes, Gerard Depardieu.
He does look
Yeah.
a bit like a
He
Gerard.
does look like-
he's had a few too many beef bourguignons for sure.
He does look like Gerard Depardieu. That's true.
Depardieu. I mean, that guy's over in Russia or something, isn't he? He's a tax exile.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah, he went there. He went
Naughty.
to Russia, so he didn't want to pay French taxes anymore. He probably gets all these goat's cheese, shipped in.
I mean, that's what Pete Doherty did, didn't he? He just went to France to quit Smack and just discovered cheese instead.
That's
and
what
you
the
got to wonder
Stones did.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
what's
they
gonna-
went to the Bahamas to kick heroin and discovered crack.
That's the
though.
Happy Mondays, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think Keith too. He went somewhere in.
they had
I
that
don't-
amazing studio, Air Studios in that Caribbean island. Is that where?
Yeah, George Martin's
Oh,
studio.
no,
right?
it's a British Caribbean island, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
one
and
of
it
the.
got hit with a that would be incredible fan fiction if like every star was there, and then the
He talks. Sorry,
I was gonna say, and then no, carrying like the was
the
it a
British
hurricane or
Guyana,
something?
isn't it?
he
Wasn't
talks
it?
about it in Get Back. George Martin. There's one
Really?
part that George Harrison asks him. He's like, "How are things going with your new studio?" and George is like, "Really great." Like he's just building it. I think.
Yeah, it's near it's the island near Antigua, I think, and it was volcanic, or I think they just had this horrific hurricane. But didn't
Wow.
they used to have like
Montserrat.
it was amazing. Yeah, that's the one.
Montserrat. Yeah, they recorded Brothers in Arms there. Dire Straits.
Wow.
Let's go to Montserrat right now.
You mean
Yeah.
if you get to Antigua, I think you can still kind of go over there and check it out.
I bet they don't have COVID there.
Oh man, I'm not going to get into the COVID chat, but I would love nothing more than just to go to Montserrat now.
Well, you
Go
have
with you guys.
you're all gonna get it, aren't you? Now
London's not good right now, is it?
No, I mean to be fair, I've been quite impressed with the reaction. Everyone's
Boris.
just kind of weighed it up. Well, less so Boris and more like I hate calling him Boris Johnson,
Boris
Prime
Mr.
Minister.
Johnson, yeah.
It's more just like everyone's just gone. Okay, we've got loads of plans, but it doesn't really matter. Let's cancel everything. I've had
It's
three
good that people are doing
three
that.
shows cancelled this week. It's fine. Everyone's cancelled their parties. Everyone's
As long as the
cancelled-
Premiership doesn't get cancelled, that's when it will
this
kick
is it.
off.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I'm going on Sunday to watch
Bread and
Tottenham v
circuses.
Liverpool,
Well,
and
Tottenham
I'm right
might
about
be
it.
done, eh?
As long as I don't lick the back of my head or anything, because everyone's gonna like yell into my skull, but the back of it. So
Yeah, the back's fine.
Hockey season's pretty much getting canceled by the day here too.
Yeah,
well,
well,
it's
I
very
think
cold
Tottenham,
there, though.
Tottenham
All the-
are struggling,
everyone's
aren't
getting
they,
it.
now with COVID again. Didn't Conte? He said he's scared.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna get cancelled, and everyone's gonna freak out. But
That's it. When you
don't
get
know.
rid of the circuses, you know what I mean? Like they're the kind of national circuses. Once you
Yeah.
get rid of them, no one gives a shit about music.
it's the soap, though, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
what's going on all
working
the time.
man's ballet.
I'm trying to work out.
You got some scribbled notes
I'm
from
trying
the
to
plane?
think- yeah, before like, oh
Are
yeah,
they
so-
Beatlesy?
Beatlesy stuff. I wondered
Yeah.
about, how basically release the tapes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So
That
going
does
back
sound
to
good.
that-
That U87. Sorry, go on.
Oh, it does. Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear that top sizzle. That sizzle they're famous
I mean,
for.
I notched the top end down. I just put a little bit of podcast kind of, in there. Oh yeah, so maybe he's holding back the show, and I'm just linking this into B2 and the metaverse.
Yeah.
Maybe he's already had a meeting with Zuckerberg, and you may have already covered this.
Well,
but maybe there's going to be an immersive
get
thing
back experience
where you're on the roof, and maybe Peter Jackson is the fiddler on the roof. Maybe that's what his whole thing is.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and
or you can watch from a different roof.
Or like a choose your own adventure where you can choose a Beatle to be in the band, and then you playing or be the copper. Yeah, exactly.
I also think just on it's a bit of a shame they didn't put a camera on Billy. I just think I
think it's more. Decision. I think it's more of a shame that the cops threw him off the roof after the show.
Well,
no one's talking about that.
Well, they threw Billy off the roof.
Yeah, no one's talking about that.
No one said anything about it. It's horrible.
What they threw Billy Preston
died
right off the fucking side, dude. After they finished,
that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, legend.
I never knew that's how he went.
No, that's what like McCartney.
You don't see
replaced.
the street reaction to that because it's shocking.
They replaced McCartney in '66. They replaced Billy in '68.
Yeah,
no one can play that riff like him, though. No way.
I don't know.
It's almost. I love the way they edit it.
You'd probably give it a go if you had enough,
I got schooled by this. I did a session with Steve Ballinger. Actually, he's making a new album.
Oh, that's great.
The drummer, who's also called Steve.
Good drummer.
He's great drummer. Good drummer. He ended up on the there's like the Beatles, big Beatles band over here, the covers band, and they've been going for years. And the old Paul is like now the manager, and they got the young guys in.
So they're doing B2.
They're basically doing B2, but it's 3D, and it's basically reality B2. It's not.
But they've replaced the original Paul with a new Paul in the covers band.
Oh yeah. So yeah, my mate John Murray does sound for them sometimes. Oh, what are they called? They're like the big Beatles tribute band in the UK, and they go out for like 30 grand.
The Fab Four, no,
that's the American one that we learnt about yesterday.
What was the one that was on the really terrible Beatles covers band that ended up on that news program, and it was that comedy?
Beatlemania?
Oh, that was
maybe they're just called the Fab Four.
I don't think it's anyway. But
the Fab Four dress up. I'm looking at them; they're into it.
Steve couldn't do this riff though. He was drumming on this session. He's like found the Rhodes in the studio and just did the Get Back Rhodes riff, and I tried to do it, but I couldn't do it. I felt completely.
I know
undermined.
That's probably how McCartney felt watching Billy do it.
Undermined.
Yeah,
isn't it funny? I think that you can only play like that if you were on the road with Ray Charles for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Richard and stuff.
That's a certain style of playing that is not
take it to church kind of vibes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a gospel inspired style. But you know what I was going to say is that it's funny how Billy Preston, they edit it that makes it look like he sat down and just wrote the "Don't Let Me Down" riff within 5 seconds.
But that riff,
it's
right, a tag though. It's that's the same. Yeah. It's the same movement that's on the Get Back riff. It's just slowed down in a different chord. But that's his thing.
So good.
Imagine having a tag that recognizable. So that's my thing. I'm just going to put it on your record.
I wish I had a Wurlitzer in my room.
You know what's funny is just talking to you guys, what we should actually do, forget the last waltz. And I'm pretty sure right now I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no one's thought of this. Okay. Is that we recreate the rooftop concert.
Okay. Oh, shit.
In London.
On 3 Savile Row.
Yeah, no one's ever probably called Apple, I don't think, and said, I got, emailed them and got a great idea. We got a bunch of indie rockers in their 30s who are big Beatles fans. And what we want to do is get up on your roof and do the set. So what do you think?
It's worth a try. But then I think what would happen is that's when the big guns will come in. They'll get wind that someone's going to do it.
Get lawyered up, yeah.
They'll get lawyered up, and before you know it, everyone who's lined up for B2 will be on that roof, and they'll take our idea.
Johnny Depp, Grohl.
And And it wouldn't be
Sheeran.
cops this time. It won't be a couple of bobbies this time. It's going to be the fucking SWAT team on the other side of the roof. You know what I mean?
And they're not pointing the guns at
Blackwater.
them; they're pointing them at us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Put down the guitar, sir.
yeah. Definitely got like
I kind of like the
Black
cop
Ops
edit.
vibe.
I know you guys didn't like. Oh, weirdly, it's on my screen right now.
The cops.
I like the cop bit.
Were you a cop lover?
Have you seen the original Let It Be?
Yeah, I have. But it was a long time ago. I should have revisited.
It's
Yeah.
just the same shit.
Well, it's just the same thing.
It's the
so.
rehash, isn't it?
It's not as good,
yeah.
actually. This
yeah,
one,
the
the old
split
one's
screen
better.
thing. It goes a bit Austin Powers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's on Savile Row, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That James, you had a great point that like, who cares what a bunch of accountants on Savile Row think about Beatles? You know what I mean?
just
my
it's just
favorite bit.
Tory
sorry,
power
James.
structure. It's just reminding us not to know that we're free. Why would anyone like view the Beatles' last concert through the lens of police and the establishment?
Yeah, it was kind of cool though. I think it
It's an
created
act of insurrection, man.
100%.
It created a
Amen.
story arc though when Macca talks about trying to raid the Houses of Parliament, and I don't know if I can't remember if that was covered in the original, but just like
Guy Fawkes style.
yeah, well, at least there's that form of rebellion that I think is always from the rooftop footage that's always been there. It's this sense that the Beatles they're rebelling against,
Sure.
the oppression.
But I think they could have done that
In
with
Libya,
a
in
little
a
bit of less cutaways and
Agreed.
He's still,
More
We've
show.
already
We were
seen
promised
that
the
stuff.
show.
Yeah,
We were promised, in its
breaking
entirety.
news. That original press release that said we will see it has disappeared from Peter Jackson and
Redacted.
Disney. It's been redacted.
yeah. He said finally
Beetlegate.
Yeah, I remember reading it because it was before it was finished being edited.
Yeah.
And that was all they said. And then all this stuff started creeping in about how we're going to be
Frodo.
cutting away to the street. And I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
They already did that. What do you mean? You said we were going to see it all.
Is it Jackson or is it McCartney and Ringo? Did
I
they not
think it's-
perform
I
the
think
other
it's-
songs very well?
I think it's McCartney. And
But we know they played well because we
got the
it's on
bootlegs.
the record.
well, that
Yeah.
could be the big reveal is that they're not live.
Well,
Somebody said that maybe they don't have the footage because they were using film and the cameras ran out. I refuse to believe
No,
that.
I don't think that happened.
They had like 7 cameras up there
Could
and a
have-
helicopter.
Could have been a Muddy Waters Last Waltz incident, but it's possible.
No
that
way.
there's-
Too many
It's
cameras.
possible that there's too many overdubs and stuff, and actually it wasn't live. And some of the McCartney stuff, you can imagine him being like, "Come on, I want to get in
maybe
the studio."
Spector's last words were, "As producer, you're not allowed to show the entire
The whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm actually into this idea, and we should stop here. But I'm into this idea now that actually it's not that footage doesn't exist, and it does, and it shows them not playing the songs, and that's like,
Let me
why?
tell you,
You can't.
even if it doesn't exist, I know what does exist. The footage that they do on the split screen where someone's talking over George's
Yeah.
guitar solo.
Yeah.
And I even just want to see that
Well, maybe it's
uninterrupted.
conveniently like that. Those little
Right,
things are
right.
flubs that got overdubbed. And you know when it says like this is the version of this is Get Back as it appears on the record, maybe it's all just a ruse, and actually it isn't at all. Hence,
I
we can't
refuse.
see the whole thing. That would be a
I
revelation.
can't believe that. Don't break my heart. I don't want to believe that.
Well,
I
maybe-
refuse to believe that.
Release the
maybe it's
tapes,
like
we
an
need to see
Indiana
it.
Jones like Holy
Definitely
Grail vibe.
Indiana Jones for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
Or that
I'm
one
going to
Nicolas
go.
Cage one where he's in a pyramid and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we need to go to the Reddit, and that's a really good
Yeah.
idea. Thank
If you could
Joe.
do that,
And
Johnny, that would be great.
Sure, yeah, I'll do it.
I'll
I'll do
edit.
it.
You read it.
Sounds good. And Joe, you better go and work on that Billy Preston lick for when we do the rooftop concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like the Claire de Lune of rock and roll, I think.
Well, on that
really nice
bombshell, we'll.
That was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
It's really
Thank
nice
you
to
for having
see
me
you.
on. Yeah,
Let's
it's great
have you
to
on
see
again soon. Send me your audio, even if it's broken, and have a great rest of your day. And don't get COVID.
Yeah, you too. I think my
Yeah, we'll have you back again soon, Joe. That was really, really hilarious.
I'll
and
see you
wonderful
later
thing.
when we're going to be talking to Bleecker, Johnny.
All right. Bye-bye,
Peace.
guys.
Nice one, dudes.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Merry Christmas.